As I am not an English-speaking person by birth, I pre-recorded this to keep focused. Bear with me. Last time we saw that the Bible never claimed to be inerrant or infallible, but I want to give you all a glimpse of just how inspired it is. Today, I attempt to do the impossible, to tell you the overarching storyline of the Bible in 10 minutes. It might get a bit dense. Most of us will have seen the classical attempt to come up with such a biblical storyline, which goes about like this. After we were created in perfection in Eden, we experienced the fall, redemption, the cross, to finally enter the new creation. We usually simplify this picture and leave out the many that just don't make it. Maybe it makes for easier advertisement. Today, I would like to propose a different narrative. It does need some groundwork, though. Have you noticed that we today think and see the world different from our ancestors, often even our parents? We recognize this world as a much more complex place. Just think technology, climate change, pollution, polarization, globalization, and so forth. Developmental psychology has looked at the history of mankind, especially under this lens of the complexity of our thinking, and has made a few very interesting discoveries. Humanity has grown in their ability for complex thinking, mostly because their lifestyle has produced new problems they needed to solve. Every individual during their life will repeat the essential steps of growth that humanity went through in the same order. There just are no shortcuts. We today grow through more steps faster because we have people that went before us, while in the past, much of what we just grow into had to be learned over generations. Therefore, only a few will grow even further. We never lose previous ways of seeing the world and can fall back into them or use those worldviews when they seem fit. Different people groups today have progressed to different levels and worldviews that best fit the complexity of the problems they face. If this is true, the Bible should reflect this development with God as the driving force. And this has some implications. The Bible will be read differently by people with different worldviews because they have a different awareness of the world. The challenge for God, he has to inspire the stories of the Bible to be profitable for us at every level of awareness. God uses different styles to carry many levels of messages, geared at all past and future stages of maturity and awareness. I listed some of the styles in the slide without going through them now. In all of them, he focused less on factual and historical accuracy, but on life-giving revelation. The Bible, therefore, is an account of wrestling with God by people and vice versa, in which we find guidelines, examples, ideas, inspiration on how to relate with God, ourselves, and each other. Those accounts speak to different stages of maturity, often at the same time, but we can also see development within the Bible from simple to more complex, from childlike to mature. Now we're ready to tell the storyline of the Bible as the account of maturing humanity and individuals through wrestling with God, self, and each other. Baby humanity is not self-aware yet in Eden, but through the development of language, pattern matching, and color sight develops consciousness. This allows us to remember the past consciously and anticipate the future. Aware humanity starts to function in small units, with blood ties holding them together. unities like families or tribes. A baby will grow within the security and safety of the family. Many things are magical. The elders are right. Think Abraham. God is a family God among many. From the security of a relationship with God, Abraham launched out and went without knowing where he was going. He took his family with him because that was his point of safety. He started to take decisions, fought battles, and made mistakes. Like a child that becomes a high-chair tyrant and adventurously conquers the playground with necessary quarrels and claims. God is the power God that fights the gods of Egypt. Next, God gives the law, as he is the highest authority, to prevent tyrants like Pharaoh. Moses is kept at bay by the law just as much as any other Israelite, as we can see in the fact that he is not allowed in the promised land. Slowly, our community grows from blood ties, as in the tribes of to a people held together by a common interest as expressed in their view of God, the law, and culture. Here, humanity develops absolute truth. Think Pharisees. In Jesus, we are prepared for many more stages after this absolute truth, hierarchical rules, and law-based worldview. We grew into the next one with the Reformation. We finally got an understanding of the individual. We're not saved by belonging to either Israel or the church, where belonging always includes playing by the rules and believing the absolute truth. We are saved through faith by grace in an individual relationship with Jesus. Our old understanding of God has to die, as God cannot be the absolute ruler in heaven, the old man punishing and rewarding our adherence to the law. Next, our community will grow even further. The parable of the Good Samaritan, Jesus sitting with sinners and exchanging with foreigners, leads us to include others. There's no more Jew or Greek, slave or master, man or woman. We become inclusive. The next big revelation we will have is this: each of those steps is valuable and necessary. Let us be even more inclusive. Include those with different worldviews and include those worldviews in yourself. Be a family man, an adventurous pathfinder, a moral being, an individual, and an inclusive, tolerant, liberal person. Be whatever fits the situation. So let's put this all together. In conclusion, the overarching storyline of the Bible is the narrative of maturing humanity and maturing individuals, the we and the I, in a wrestling, loving relationship with God, self, and each other, told in multi-layered stories that either demonstrate the thinking of one certain worldview or speak to each level of consciousness differently. Now, that was a mouthful, and that has powerful consequences. Let me give you two examples. A traditional man will interpret the first commandment as an intrinsic motivation to only have one God. A modern woman will argue that if there is only one God, she cannot by definition have other gods unless she creates one. And a postmodern person will see the relational aspect of the verses. Let's recap. Warrior and traditional people have an image of an angry God of right and wrong in heaven, waging his finger and demonstrating his power by reminding the Israelites of what he did when he led them out of Egypt, and then telling them not to dare to have other gods beside him. The difference between warrior and tradition lies in the immediacy of punishment. Modernity is concentrating on reason and the godly spark within every individual. It sees the danger of putting self on the throne or creating other gods. Postmodernity, for them, God is relational and inclusive. By not forgetting this relationship, we will not have other gods beside him as an automatic effect of a love relationship. Last but not least, integral. It finds that all three views have value at times in our lives and help us grow. The second example, a person steeped in traditional moral issues and an understanding of right and wrong according to a traditional interpretation of the Bible is perfectly on God's path and learning valuable stuff, but cannot understand more complex issues like inclusion. While at times loving the magic nature of some stories of the Bible. To defend their absolute truth, they will go to the trenches and become a tyrannical warrior child again, which can be defensive or just a natural reaction to first doubt when one goes on to grow further. With an open mind, they can go on from glory to glory. Search and you will find. Taking the Bible as inspired versus inerrant allows us to detect and discover even more levels of consciousness in the future, and therefore allows us growth. No man could have come up with this. The Bible has to be inspired.